Okay, thank you very much. So thank you very much for the organizer for this invitation. So I am very pleased to be again in India for time and to be the opportunity to come to this institute here. So we talk about a joint work with Roger Plyman. So the first part of my talk will be very elementary. So just we do with fields and Galois group. So we will consider the following situations. So F will be a local non-Archimedean field with a finite residue field, and E degree finite Galois extension of F of degree denoted by D. And so as you all know, we can look at the Galois group of over F and the values of the trivial group. And for each I, so here at the moment the I are integer, is a group of elements of gamma which acts trivially on OE, the ring of integer of O mod P at the power I plus 1, where P is the maximal ideal of E. So this can be extended to non-necessarily integer point. So if you take now T, a real number, greater by -1, we just denote by gamma T, the ramification group gamma I, where I is the smallest integer greater than T, or greater or equal to T. Then we will. So in these groups, these are not necessarily strict inclusion. And when you get a strict inclusion, in this you will get a break, or more generally, we set gamma T plus as the intersection of the gamma T prime for T greater than T, for T prime greater than T, and then we call it T a break or a jump of the filtration if that subgroup gamma T plus is not equal to gamma T. And then I will especially interested in the largest ramification break, but we call it B in this filtration, which means that at some point you will meet gamma B, and after gamma B, you just have all the group which will be equal to the trivial group 1. Two small remarks. So when the extension is unramified if the inertia group is the first one, the gamma 0 is 1, and in that case, it's 1 after that also, and so B is equal to -1. And this is the case I will be especially interested in, is the case when the extension is termly ramified, and this occurs if gamma 1 is 1, and in that case, B is equal to 0. So gamma is the Galois group, gamma 0 is the inertia subgroup, and gamma 1 is the wild inertia subgroup of gamma. So now come back to something also very elementary, which is the Hasse-Erbland function, which is defined as follows. So first, introduce the following notation. So gamma 0, gamma T would just be index of gamma T in gamma 0 for non-negative T. And if T is between -1 and 0, then you just define this as the inverse of gamma T, gamma 0. And then let E be the ramification index of the extension E over F. So now the Erbland function, as is the well-known function defined as follow by this integrand. So it is continuous, piecewise linear, increasing and concave. And then I would like to make a small remark that will be important for the cycle, which is the following. So we have a break, so I call B the greater one, so and these are the other breaks. And then compute B mod E, so it is just this, because the order of gamma 0 is E. Then now, of course, we can use the break, so you compute for each break, and this is, of course, less or equal than this, because here we just have the index of gamma 0 with respect to 1, and here we have the index of gamma 0 with respect to B1. And this is equal to, by definition, to the value of the R-Blunt function at B. So here, and so as you see, this is B mod E is less or equal to the value of the R-Blunt function at B, and it is equal if and only if the extension E is termly ramified, because thanks to the previous remark. Okay. So now we can also compute, I mean, it's also a very easy thing to compute explicitly the R-Blunt function. So we take R, positive real number, and we compute the value of the R-Blunt function at ER, and you find that it is equal to R plus this quantity, which we have just checked that this quantity is greater than 0 with equal to 0 if and only if the extension is termly ramified. So we write this, so we have this expression, and we say that the value of the R-Blunt function at ER is equal to R if and only if the extension is termly ramified. So this will be important in the sequel. And also, as a corollary of this small formula, you divide by R, and you find 1 plus this number mod R. So this quantity has a limit when R is go to the infinity, and that limit is 1. So this is very easy things. So for later use, I will also introduce the upper numbering filtration, which we just taken gamma S, define gamma S as gamma T, where S is the image of T by the R-Blunt function. The interest of this is that we will use it later to define a notion that we'll introduce later, which is the notion of depth. And also, upper numbering behaves well with respect to quotient in this sense. And so this allows to define the ramification also in the case of the absolute Galois group, which will be the case we will be interested in. And we just take the projective limit of the Galois LT T with the previous definition, when L is related to the set of all finite Galois extension of F. Okay, so I will introduce later a dense subgroup of the Galois group, of the absolute Galois group, which is the Weil group of F, and of course this group, WF, also has a ramification in upper numbering of the absolute Galois group, just by looking at just view it as a subgroup of the corresponding ramification group of a Galois group. So this was a very easy thing that I will need later, so I prefer to have stated before. Now I will come to the real subject of the talk, which is about Weil restriction of scalar. So this is just reminding what is, by definition, the Weil restriction. And I will use it in the following situation. So here X, we take for X, G, ball G, which is a split connected reductive group defined over E. So as before, E is a Galois finite extension of F. And then we denote by M the Weil restriction of G. So now we talk about long-length correspondence. So the first thing about local long-length correspondence is to define the object, and the one object which we need is the long-length dual group. So the long-length dual group, in the case of a split connected reductive group, like G, is very easy to define. It is just the complex Lie group with root system dual to that of G. So give you a few examples. So later I will focus on the case of G is GLN, but here are some other examples. So for instance, if G is SLNF, in the case the root system, the dual root system are same, but here for SLN you will get PGLN, and similarly for SO2n plus 1, SP2n, and vice versa for this, and SO2n is a self-dual. Except that, of course, here this group has reductive periodic group, and here they are complex Lie group. Okay, so this is the Langdon's dual of G, which is a split connected group. So now we will need to define the Langdon's dual group of M. But M is not in general split because M is obtained by, except if E is equal to F, but in general it is not split. And so we would like to define and to compute this. So all these things are well known, but it's just to introduce the material. So we need some notation. So now take some group, an abstract group, and A prime, a subgroup of A of finite index, and D an A prime module. Then we will denote by D star the group of maps from F from A to D such that we satisfy that property. And then we easily can make D star into A module just by setting SFA equal to F of AS. And then, so this A module D star, you will write it as like an induced module from A prime to A of D. So sometimes I will write and, sometimes just capital I prime I of D. And then you will, of course, apply this construction to Galois group or Weil group, or group related to this kind of group. So this is the following. It's again a well-known object. So it is the Shapiro isomorphism, which is defined as follows. So you look at the one cocycle from A with value in D star, and then this is isomorphic to H1. So this is from A to A prime, and this is isomorphic to H1 of A prime D. And we define that map, we define the map, and it is an isomorphism. Define it just by first looking at theta, which is just the morphism from D star to D, defined by the evaluation of F at the unit element of A. And the Shapiro map send alpha to the restriction to A prime of alpha composed with theta. So a small remark, which I will use right after. So now take B a group and assume that you have a homomorphism mu from B to A, and denote by B prime the inverse image of A prime by mu, and assume that mu induces a bijection from these two quotient space, B mod B prime onto A mod A prime. Then the map will send F to mu on F. Again, induces an isomorphism from these two induced modules. So now, with all these small things, we are able to define the dual, Langdon's dual of M. So first, I will need, so I promise you that I will define the Weil group. So Weil group, so it is here. So I will need it for F and also for E. So take local and Archimedean field. So the Weil group WF is the absolute Weil group, is a subgroup of the absolute Galois group. So here F bar is a separable closure of F, algebraic closure of F. And we have an exon sequence. So here this group is the inertial group, which is the group, this Galois group sub-zero in the ramification that I have, or up zero in both ramification filtrations. And so I did not, so I assume that the residue field of my p-adic field F is finite. So I will denote it by FQ, the finite field with Q element. Then the Galois group of this group is isomorphic to at Z, and the Weil group is just defined to be the inverse image of Z. So this of Z. So here you have at Z. So we take for WF the inverse image in this of Z under this map. So this is the Weil group, and in fact we will need a bigger group. Which was introduced by Deligne, and it is the Weil-Deligne group, and we have several ways to define it in an equivalent manner. So just here for simplicity, and I would just take the following. So the semi-direct product of WF by C with the following actions. So W, an element of WF, is acting on Z by this multiplication, where, and to define this norm is defined as follows. The element W of WF acts on the residue field as by sending X to the power of X, to X at the power Q at the power the norm of W. And of course, what is valid for F is also valid for E. So now you will see what I would like to do. I have WF, WE, and previously I have two groups, A and A prime. I will apply this to this family of groups. So let's come back to the remark. Sorry, here is the remark. When you have two groups and we have an homomorphism with that property, then you get this isomorphism. And so, yes, yes? Sorry? Yes? In fact, it was just an A module. So it's yes, you are right. Yes, a B module. So okay, just as but it's a group, so it just has groups. A B module, yeah. A B module, oh, yeah, you're right, yeah. A B module, yeah. Thank you. Okay, thank you. So now we will apply this remark here 3 times. First time will be with so we will first pass from the Weidling group to the Weil group. So we take this groups, this for B, and then we will get this. So as an isomorphism of B module where B is this, is the Weidling group of F. And then we pass from this one to the Galois group by the same trick. And the last one is to pass from this, from the absolute Galois group. So now we take L and finite extension of E, and so we have now, and it's also by also finite extension of F, and then you pass from this module to module here, and so we have a sequence of isomorphism, and this common value, I mean, it's defined up to isomorphism, will be denoted by M check, and this will be the Langlands dual group of M. Okay, now we can state our first result, which is, so in here I will assume that G is GLN over, so yes, G is GLN, and so for just a small discretion. So for in the case of GLN, the local Langlands correspondence is known to be true. It was due first to Harris and Taylor, and then will be another proof by Enya, and also after that a proof by Scholze. So it is bijection between the irreducible. So here I am looking at the local Langlands correspondence for GLN over E. So it is a bijection between the set of isomorphism equivalent isomorphism classes of smooth irreducible representation of GLN over E with the homomorphism. So the representation of W prime, some homomorphism from W E prime G with some which satisfy a certain list of property and can be characterized in a unique way. So I will not enter in the detail here. So we have this map, this bijection, and then we have a Shapiro isomorphism that we have defined before. And also by definition, by construction, because M is defined to be the Weyl section of E as a consequence of a definition, M over F, the point of M over F, coincide with the point of G over E, and so there is a bijection between these two sets. And we take for lambda, we define lambda M as the composition of these three maps. So we start with an irreducible representation of M over F. By iota, you send it to an irreducible representation of G over E, and then we use the Langlands correspondence to get an homomorphism here, an element of this group, and then use the Shapiro isomorphism to go from this to the similar set, to the set of a cocycle in M. So here it's same as this, but the fact that E is split, this cocycle are just trivial, and we just recover this. Okay, so this is at the moment just a bijection. We will see that it has an interesting property, and in fact it should provide the local Langlands correspondence for M. At the moment, it's not, as stated, it's not clear what it means, because to say that, we should prove that it is a unique bijection with some property, and this is not done yet. But in the case of a torus, it is, and it is due to Langlands, and it was proved at the beginning of a story on local Langlands correspondence. And so I will recall the statement. So, so for a while, we will assume that M is a torus, so which means, and we are still in the case where G is GLN, so which means that this N is 1, and so G is GL1. So the group of points is just E star, so you can view it as an algebraic variety defined by this equation. And upon the Weyl restriction, you will get connected commutative algebraic group, which is defined by with an equation in the affine space of dimension 2D, where D is the degree of E mod F, and the group M, the algebraic group M, is in this situation a torus defined over F, which is called an induced torus. It has dimension D. And here is Langlands result. So now take an arbitrary algebraic maximal torus defined over F. Then there is a unique family of homomorphism lambda T, which satisfy the two property. First, this each such homomorphism is additive functorial in T, which means that there exists that it is a morphism between additive functor from the category of tori to the category of abelian group. And the second property, in the case where the torus is an induced torus, yeah, and property 2, then the extension is finite separable extension. Then lambda T is defined as before, which means that it is defined as using the Shapiro map. Okay, so this is the case of tori. This was known so many years ago, and then we can look at the notion of depth. So we have a bijection between two spaces, and we will introduce an invariant on each side, which will be called the depth, and the question would be, is that invariant preserved or not by that bijection? So in the case of tori, the question is that invariant, which we call the depth, be invariant or not by the local long-length correspondence? And the answer will be yes, if and only if it will be yes in the case where the extension is terminally ramified, and not always when the extension is widely ramified, and I will say something more in a minute. So now look at the Weil group. As for the Galois group, it carries an upper number infiltration, but I will denote it by WFR. Okay, some small remark, and then we'll have to M. And so from this, what we want to define is the invariant, what we call depth, on the set of this cocycle. And so we take A, an element of H1, M, G, M check, and you define its depth as the nth of a real number, such that WS is contained in the kernel of A for all the real S greater than R. Okay? So this is just a definition. So now a result of Mishra and Pataniak, who compare in the case of tori, and then when we extend it to M. So the formula is the following. So we have defined this map lambda M. So in case of a torus, we know that it is, thanks to Langland's result, the local Langland's correspondence. And so we start with pi, an irreducible representation of M over F. And we would like to compute, and so we apply lambda M, so we get a cocycle, and to compute its depth. And the result is that the depth of lambda M of pi is the image by the Arborn function of a depth of lambda G of pi E, where pi E is iota of pi, just to remind you that iota is just, it's written in the last line, the natural bijection between these two set of isomorphism classes of irreducible representation. Okay, so now this is a formula, and you see that the Arborn function is occurring here. And in particular, what the result of the Arborn function that I will recall later, that I have given in the beginning, gives you the fact that the depth is equal, the depth of lambda M equals the depth of this, okay, is not in general equal to the depth to the depth of the depth modified by E. So now I said that I would like to compare the invariant, the depth on both sides. So for this, I need to define a notion of depth on the group side. So we'll do it here in the case of tori. So first we can look at just the multiplicative group of our field. It admits the following filtration, and then we can define the filtration of a torus, which is due to Moy and Prasad. I mean, it's a special case of Moy-Prasad filtration. And in the case where the torus is an induced torus, which is the case we are looking for here, we just take the element in TF which are valuation greater or equal to ER, which in the above definition with E is E star ER, and just be careful about the normalization of the valuation. We take the valuation on E, which is normalized such that the valuation of F, it's an E, sorry, this F should be E, it's Z, and it's also true for F, but we are interested in E. And then for this, with this notation, the depth of a character of a torus is just defined as the nth is very similar to the Galois side. The nth of R such that Ts is contained in the kernel of chi for any S greater than R. So now compare the depth. So this question was studied by Jackie Yu in the proceeding of a lecture course that he gave in Ottawa many years ago. And he proved that for an arbitrary torus, in the local long-length correspondence for depth, the depth is preserved in the case where the extension E is termly ramified. Now we have the result of Mishra and Patanayak. We said that using what the result that result that I have already recalled, that the depth of lambda t of chi is in fact the image by the R-Bland function of E times the depth of chi. And we also, for any character of a torus, and we also constructed example where the extension is widely ramified, in which the depth is not preserved. So now what we did is a slightly generalization of this. And so by a combination of Mishra-Patanayak theorem above and the property of the R-Bland function that I've recalled in the beginning, we get the following. So in the local long-length correspondence for tori, for T, for induced tori, the depth is preserved for positive depth character if and only if the extension is termly ramified. Of course, if I take a character of depth 0, the R-Bland function of 0 is 0, and so you also get 0 for the parameter. And also by using the formula on the result of the R-Bland function, if the extension is widely ramified, for each character with positive depth, we have that the depth is strictly greater of the depth. So this is important. So the depth of the parameter is strictly greater than the depth of the representation. And also these asymptotic things that the quotient of the depth asymptotically is 1. Okay. So maybe, yes, I would like to make a comment. Yeah. So in the case of, so it is induced tori. Induced tori. So we have, you can say depth, the depth. So we have chi and irreducible of T, an irreducible character of T, and say L for local long-length correspondence, which in this case is what I call lambda T. So now N of the depth, the result is that the depth of chi is it's too small, sorry, thank you. So I take an induced torus T, and L is local long-length correspondence. And then I claim that now, for any character, irreducible character of T, the depth of chi satisfies the following property. Yeah. Okay. And sometimes and if the extension is if it's an induced torus, if the extension is widely ramified, it is a strict inequality. Now go to another direction. Assume that G is SL2 over F. Then with Baum, Lyman, first. Okay, let's see. So then we show the following, which is just the opposite in some sense. For any pi irreducible representation of SL2 over F. So the local long length correspondence exists for SL2, and the depth of pi is satisfy the following equality. Okay, and just another case. And I will come back to my slides, which is the following. G is SUP of QP. And then this is an example which is due to Reader and U. And we find an example of a representation. So it is a simple supercuspidal representation. So that exists by supercuspidal representation of G such that d of pi is 1 mod 2 pi, and d of L of pi, of its long length parameter, is 1 mod 2 pi plus 1. So as in SL2 case, it is in this case. And finally, G is GLN M over G, D and division algebra over F. And in that case, depth is preserved. So in particular, it is preserved for GLN. So this is first result in this direction are due to Lansky and Agouram. First it is U for GLN F and for G over FLN and say 10 case, and Lansky Agouram. And then we extend it in several cases, and then we extended it to this group without any assumption, but the proof is really based on this. The method is really based from their method. So, it was just to notice that the situation is just the opposite on the situation of the toric. So now let's come back to this. So I promised to, in the abstract, that I will give an application to the Asahi lift. So first, a small remark about, sometimes I say long loss parameter, sometimes I say cocycle. So this is the link. So what is usually called a long loss parameter? Of course, for split group, it does not. It's same, but a long loss for eventually non-split. So a long loss parameter for periodic group M is an homomorphism from the Weidolin group into the L group of M. We satisfy a certain list of properties that I will not give, but one of these is that there's a well-behavior with respect to the projection to WF, which is the following. But if you look at phi evaluated in W, then you will get this, where mu on the second element here is the projection map, the natural projection map from the Weidolin group to the Weil group. And so because of the definition of a semi-direct product here, we get that in fact this A here is a cocycle. And so the map W to AW is a one cocycle with value in M. So this makes the link between the two ways of thinking of it. And in particular, so it determines more precisely, this gives an injective map from the set of M-check conjugacy classes of long length parameter this set of one cocycle. And also, we can define the depth of the long-length parameter, which is the things we are using, this notion which are using here. So all these results here are using the definition of, in terms of the set phi of M. So the depth of such a long-length parameter is the M of R, such it's S here. No, it's the f of R such that this is contained in the kernel of f for any S greater than R, and then the depth of the long-length parameter is the same as the depth of G of F. So now I finally arrive to VSI lift. Actually, what I will say this will be also makes sense, will be valid also for an arbitrary integer G, but the most interesting case is the case where D is equal to 2, so E is a quadratic extension. So now we'll have a third group which will occur in the picture. So as before, we have G, which is GLN. So we like to view it as just the GL over V, where V is the n-dimensional C vector space Cn. So the L group of G is, by definition, semi-diagonal product of W of G checked by W with a natural action. And as I already said, the long-length dual of GLN F is GLN C, which is GLV. And then here, look at M. Then M is, as before, defined like this. And this is just the product of two copies of GLN, can be viewed as copy of two copies of GLN over C. And the L group is the semi-direct product of this group by WF, in which the phi group permutes the two copies. We can write it more formally in this way. So now we have G, which is GLN with GLN, and you are interested in another GLN group, another general linear group, which is the group that I will denote it by G tilde. We see GL n square, so GL capital N, where n capital N is equal to the square of n. And as before, of course, the L group has the same structure, except that here we have capital N instead of small n. And now we can look as the following map. So we can embed the L group of M into the L group of G tilde as follows. So we have an element. So here we have the two copies of GLV, and here the element W, and you just send it to the tensor product of these two, and we do not modify W, and with this rule. And so this is one thing. And now, so the thing we are interested in is about the conductor of a certain representation. So I will need to recall what it is. So now we have E, denoted by OE, its ring of integers, and PE, the maximal ideal of OE. Fixed psi E, a continuous non-trivial additive character of E. And I will denote by C of psi E, the conductor of psi E, which is the largest integer, C such that psi is trivial on this power of P. And then take an arbitrarily irreducible representation of GLN over E. The Godman-Jacquet local constant epsilon S pi psi E is can be defined, has been defined by Godman and Jacquet, and it takes the following form. Some invertible element in C here, and some power of Q which depend on S, so where S is this S, so a complex number. And then one define the following integer. So here we have this F, which is which arrive here, and you consider the difference of this F by n times the conductor of psi E, and this is what it's usually called the conductor of the representation pi. So now first, for the definition of the map R just before, it's clear by construction that this map does not change the depth. So we've taken an element here, the depth by a parameter R, a long loss parameter for M. You compose by R, you will get a long loss parameter for G. But this process will not modify the depth. So this is this assertion here. And then we have computed the depth before, and the depth of phi, as I said before, is the same as the depth view as for the corresponding one co-cycle by the map denoted before J. And so we get that the depth of R composed by phi composed by R is just the R-Bland function, the value of the R-Bland function at the depth of this element. So now iota as before is the map from canonical map from E of MF to E of GLN over E. And so I just defined PE as the image of pi by iota. And then what is called the Azaïr lift. So it's an irreducible of pi E. So pi E was an irreducible representation, an arbitrary irreducible representation of GLN over E. And Azaïr of pi is an irreducible representation of GLN square F. So here it's E, here it's F, and you pass from N to N square. And E is quadratic extension. And it's the by definition, it is the representation with parameter R circle phi. And the result, so I assume here that N is at least 2. But I mean, for N equal 1, we can write what it is, but it's not so interesting. And so then the formula we get is the following. So it gives you the value of a conductor of AS of pi in terms of the R-Bland function, the value of the R-Bland function at the conductor of pi E minus N mod N plus some collection, which is N square. And so this, as far as I know, this formula is new, but there is a very interesting formula which is due to Anand and Mondal. So we have a formula for the explicit formula for the conductor of Azaïr of pi E in terms, I would say, of type theory. And in the case when P is odd. And some example in the case when P is even. And so at the moment it's not, this is work in progress, but hopefully it will be possible to relate this formula to the Anand-Mondal formula in the future. And maybe to get some light on what is this formula, and could have a counterpart in the case of even when P is equal to 2. So the proof is obviously very easy from what I have said. I just give it here. But so first we have a formula for the conductor. So we are just in GLN. So in GLN, but in GL big N, I mean capital N. So we can, it's easy to compute the conductor of an irreducible representation in GLN. And you get this from in terms of its depth. So if N is equal to 1 and the representation is unramified, you just get N minus 1. And otherwise, you get this formula. So N times the depth of the representation plus N. And then, because the local Langlands for GLN preserve the depth, the conductor of this representation, you can here replace the depth by of the representation here as I of pi E by the depth of this Langlands parameter, which by definition is the composition of phi by R. And then we have computed this using the R-Bland function in terms of the the Langlands parameter of pi e, and then we will get this. This we can replace. This is in terms of cocycle. We pass from cocycle to Langlands parameter, and then again now we are in GL small n over e, and we apply the same formula here, but this time for GLN over e. This is just this formula written in the other way. The depth is the conductor minus n mod n. So we apply this plus n, and this is the formula that we have in the theorem. Okay. So I will stop here. Thank you for attention.
Any questions?
Yes?
Could you go back to the slide with this theorem? This is the previous slide?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, there. So I have forgotten this kind of details. So I seem to recall there's a definition of the Swan conductor of a Galois representation, which is close to the Artin conductor.
Okay.
Swan conductor.
The Swan conductor, yes, sure. Yeah.
So if I recall, it's this combination.
Yes, in fact, it would be better to write it in terms of the Swan conductor. Yeah, because this is just the Swan conductor. Yeah.
Right. So you move the n squared on the right-hand side to the left.
Yes.
Divide both sides by n squared, then it will look like Swan conductor equals n squared times the Herbrand function applied to the Swan conductor.
Okay, this is good. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a very nice way to say it. Yeah.
I have one more question. In the last slide, what painting? That's your painting? Yeah.
That question, yeah.
This one?
This is, this is because I like to paint first, and it's because I was thinking that I have a painting about building, so this is a math story. So this is, the trees for SL2, there is a small SL2 here. For the building of SL2, the affine building of SL2 is a tree, and there are some very strange houses here, which are ovals, because the ovals have a generalization of affine buildings for Kac-Moody group. I mean, it's what I have in mind. Actually, this is a painting, but it's just a painting. Forget about it.
So, in the example of torus and SL2F, when does the equality happen? I mean, you have the inequality there with the depth of the character and the...
In which case?
Yeah, in both of the cases, I was wondering when the equality...
Yes, it's a very good question. So here in first case, so here we have equality if and only if. So it's an induced torus, so it is given like this. Psi of A star. So equality if and only if this is widely ramified. Equality if and if it is temporally ramified. And here it's equality if and it says that too, yeah. If and only if the representation P is essentially temporally ramified in the terminology that Vincent Secher has given yesterday. Essentially temporally ramified. Yes, and in fact, more generally, if G is SLN with N, then we have same result, same inequality, and we have equality if pi is essentially tame, but we do not know. I mean, we believe it should be true, but at the moment we do not know how to prove that if the representation is not essentially tame, but it is always it is never an equality. And okay, what I said. this is good. And in the same spirit of this, this was a kind of counterexample, but there is another result, which is Furlan. So it's say one side was due to Ganapathy and Verma, and the other side was recently proved by Hoy that local long loss correspondence preserve depth for classical groups. Classical groups meaning symplectic of special orthogonal groups or unitary group when the residual characteristic P is large. And so in particular, if P is large, we are always in a termly ramified situation. And I mean, for the representation we are looking at. So the theory is a bit strange because for the group, for the tori and the group obtained by Weyl restriction, the condition is a condition of ramification over the extension. And in this situation, here, or for classical, more generally for classical groups, so SL2 is SP2, so it's a special case of classical group, but also for SLN, the condition of ramification is on the representation itself, because the group is split. So it's kind of different. But probably there is, and we do not, for SL2, we have an expression case by case of a depth, and we can check that they are not equal, but we do not have a nice formula. I mean, we do not know if there is a formula involving the R1 function or some other function.
Any further questions? If there are no further questions, let's thank the speaker again.